have to do is get him this card. How hard can that be?
Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Collector's Corner, the supplementary edition of the Divine Treasury. My name is Mike, one of your co-hosts on this journey. With me always is my co-host who, at this time last year, hardly had a Star Trek trading card to his name, and now professes to have everything that has a signature on it in the TNG collection. Collector extraordinaire, Jamie Rogers. Jamie, how's it going tonight?
Oh, it's going fantastic. Very excited. Very excited to talk to the man who I'm probably funding his child's future education for.
Well, I know when we started talking about putting this podcast together, this was actually one of the things that was very high on our list. Was talking to at least a representative from Rittenhouse Archives. We got a little bit better than that tonight. We're going to introduce our guest on the Collector's Corner. He is the president of Rittenhouse Archives, Steve Jerendoff. How are you tonight, Steve?
I'm great and really happy to be with you guys.
Excellent. I know Jamie has been chomping at the bit for some of this, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to let him lead off on the questioning. I think his first question to you, though, Steve, is if you have any more room in your family, because he'd like to be adopted.
I have 4 kids, so the answer is no. But the good news is that my kids are all either out of college or my youngest one is in college, and it's already been funded.
Nice.
So, but I appreciate the gesture that you expressed earlier.
So Steve, what got you into cards? Why don't you take us right back to the beginning? What got you started down this journey?
Wow, that's an interesting question. I guess this quick and simple answer is that when I was in the 2nd grade, I had really never been much of a big time card collector. My brother, who's older, had collected cards with me, and my dad used to buy us packs of cards when we were little. But a friend of mine in class brought in some old baseball cards that I had never seen. This was in the 70s, and he brought cards into class one day. They were from the 50s and 60s, and I just I couldn't get over that. Here were trading cards from before I was born. Didn't know they existed, and I just caught the bug. And from there, it was really a social thing at that time. All my friends collected cards, and so I got into it, and I just got hooked. And like a lot of people, it just became a lifelong hobby, a lifelong passion. And I've been fortunate to have it segue in some more roundabout way, I guess, because it wasn't my intention to do this as my living, as my career path. But I'm happy that it did.
So I was looking through your bio on your website, and you worked for the NHL for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
I can't even remember what it was that you were doing. Was it media relations? Media? I can't
marketing
remember.
And media
marketing.
Relations.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how do you transition from that into Fleer Skybox?
Well, I didn't go straight from the NHL to Fleer Skybox. The short answer to that question is that I was at the NHL for 3 years, had a blast doing it. It was, when Gretzky was at his peak and Mario Lemieux was, emerging, and it was just a great time. And I got a chance to go behind the scenes and deal with a lot of what happens in professional sports. And I was, I was grateful for the opportunity, but it wasn't really a career path that was going to lead, to the kinds of things that I wanted to accomplish personally. So I decided to go to graduate school. I came to Philadelphia to go to Penn. When I graduated Penn, I went to work for a company called The Scoreboard, which at the time, if you remember, they kind of pioneered the mass marketing of autographed memorabilia. So you'd see Pete Rose, hawking autographed baseballs on QVC and Home Shopping Network, and Nolan Ryan and Sandy Koufax and Reggie Jackson. And so I was working for them developing the hockey end of their business and the broader trading card end of their business. I got hired by Fleer, which just coincidentally happened to be across town. Scoreboard was based in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, and Fleer was based in Mount Laurel, which are neighboring towns. And at the time, the people at Fleer were looking to expand more heavily into entertainment and to build that business. They were owned by Marvel Comics, Marvel Entertainment at the time, and they were having great success with the Marvel trading cards back in the early mid 90s. This is around, I guess it was 1994, that they hired me away from Scoreboard to develop the entertainment, build on the entertainment product line. And then, of course, right after that, we bought Skybox. So all of a sudden, we went from having a few licenses, a few TV shows and movies to work on at Fleer, to all of a sudden acquiring Skybox, and we had all these other franchises, Disney and DC Comics and Star Trek, obviously. And so that's how I ended up at Fleer. I think that answers your question. I sort of went off on a rant there.
Nope. Works for me. So
obviously you're at Fleer Skybox and you have the Star Trek plays. Are you a big Star Trek fan? Like what got you into, because I know a majority of your product is a lot of Star Trek stuff.
Mm-hmm. Love it. I've been a lifelong Star Trek fan. The opportunity to take over that product line when we merged the two businesses between Fleer and Skybox, the opportunity presented itself, and I just jumped all over that. It was something that I knew I had to do because I loved the whole franchise. At that point, I guess we were at the end of the run of TNG. I think TNG may have just ended its last season, and the first project that I picked up was the trading cards for First Contact, the movie, which I think was that the first. Geez, it's been so many movies now. The second TNG movie. Thank you. So I don't have my notes in front of me. I remember a lot, but I'm getting, it's been a long time since I've been at this.
You got a lot on your plate.
Yeah. But anyway, it was very cool to pick that up because, up to that point, there hadn't been any autograph cards really in the entertainment category for trading cards at all. If there were any, it was, very, very few and far between. For First Contact, I got Brent Spiner to agree to sign cards for us. And, that was the oversized cards. And that card was a big hit right away. We knew we were onto something really, really big. It wasn't like a huge leap of faith to think that autograph cards of starring cast members from Star Trek would be very popular with the fans. Autograph cards in the sports world were becoming a big thing. So, anyway, the autograph card from Brent, I think that ended up very quickly becoming $500 card, maybe $1,000 card. It was a valuable card for that time, for sure. Today, we see many examples of cards that go for that kind of money and higher. But, when you think back to the mid 90s, that was kind of whoa, wait a minute, what's going on here? And then we just built on it from there. I recognized right away that, this was going to be a lot of fun. There was so much material to work with, especially with the original series, and being able to develop the trading cards for that version of Star Trek. And then, of course, we ended up making cards for Voyager and Deep Space Nine, and then eventually I started my own company, Rittenhouse, in 1999, and kind of picked up where Fleer Skybox left off, and we just kept running with it. And Star Trek has been the mainstay of the business ever since. And, even to this day, I'll just, as a side note, personally, if I'm lying in bed late at night and flipping channels, and all of a sudden, there's an episode of original Star Trek that comes on the air, it's like, all right, I'm not flipping anymore.
Locked in.
I'm locked in. Exactly. So, it's a passion that I always have had. And, look, I'm a lucky guy to be able to do something that I love and care about. And I've gotten to know many of the cast members over the years, many of the people who work behind the scenes over the years. And it's such a great experience to be part of it in the way that I am, and to have this connection to it.
I can really appreciate the history that you went through there, because as you were saying some of that, I was thinking to myself, mid 90s, I don't remember a lot of the sports cards were doing a lot. Now inserts with autographs and inserts with relic pieces, that's the thing. Mm-hmm. But in the 90s, that wasn't the thing. If you saw something like that, you were shocked. So yeah, to have something like that come out on that level, I can see why that Brent Spiner just jumped in value right away, because it wasn't something that was seen at that time.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And it's always been kind of my personal approach to doing things differently in this business. It's great to have continuity. I think, even in the context of doing different things, I think we always strive to have a certain degree of continuity. I mean, like the autograph cards that are behind me, that, we've continued that line of autographs from the original series from 1997 with the first series of TOS cards to today, and we're still adding to it. We have more cards that we're going to add to it when we put out the next collection of TOS. That's how many years now? 25 years almost. And we have built on that, but at the same time, always trying to do something different, always trying to expand the market in some way, doing things that are innovative and creative. And, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But you got to try. And I think by and large, we're more successful at that than not. And, I think it's one reason why, when I took over the Star Trek card line in particular back in 1995, so that's even more than 25 years ago now, that we can still think about how to put out the next set of cards for TOS, the next set of cards for TNG. There's so many sets that have been made over the years that even predate, especially for TNG, that predate my involvement. And they're all, wonderful sets. But to be able to keep it fresh and present the material. Look, these are shows that have been off the air for a very long time, but to make the material fresh and interesting, that's the challenge. So when I get up in the morning and I think about, what am I going to do with myself? What am I going to do next with these classic properties? That's where I kind of I say this sometimes, that I'm kind of like a mad scientist here in my office. So, I just kind of cook up something totally new and different. And, we always want to come up with new photos to show, and we want, to sort of get into the weeds with these shows, because there's so much nuance to Star Trek. There's so many details. And let's face it, if we're going to keep the product line going in the way that I just described, you have to think about, what are the hardcore fans going to say when they when they open up packs of cards. I mean, you can't dumb it down. You got to go the opposite way. You know, you like every set of cards has to go deeper and deeper. And, you know, I think like with TOS, we started a few years ago, you know, developing and like really expansive bonus card sets. And sometimes I guess they'd be base cards too, but particularly bonus card sets that would focus on a single episode. So we might have like a 72 card bonus set for the Cage. You know, like who does that? You know, like that's wacky to do that. But to me,
and yet it's great.
It is so much fun for me to do that because I'll sit and I'll pull all the photos myself. I'll go through the episode. Literally, this is what I do. This is why this is a great job that I have.
We're in the wrong businesses, Jamie.
So,
yeah,
you know, like
I'll
go through like I remember doing it for the Cage, especially. So I'll go through I'll go scene by scene, frame by frame. I'll toggle back and forth. I'll find the exact moment that I want. I'll clip the image, and I'll write down exactly what they said in the episode. And you can find that information online, but you'd be surprised how inaccurate it can be when, you know, you go to these fan sites that look official, but they're not really official, that, you know, like transcribe the episode script and that sort of thing. But, you know, I'll go back and I'll handwrite out the details that I need. And it'll take me, you know, however long it takes, hours to do it. And at the end of it, I'll be like, oh my God, this is the greatest thing. This is
labor
I couldn't
of love.
think of a better day to spend my time. Couldn't do any better than that. And then to see the effort, you know, in printed format, you know, even better. So it's fun.
That's awesome.
So it sounds like as a licensee, you have quite a bit of latitude with what you're able to do with the product, at least with prior stuff. So with let's move it forward to some of the newer stuff that CBS has been putting on the table, Discovery and Picard. Do they kind of dictate at times some of the things that they might want to see out of the product that you're putting out, or is it all up to you?
Well, fortunately, most of it starts with us here. And it's not all me. I mean, I have a small team that's also very knowledgeable about Star Trek, and they all have a sense of what may work and what might not work. And some of it may be driven by what's happening with printing technology at the time. You know, there may be something available to us that we might have wanted to do years ago but couldn't, and now we can because it's the printing is available, print on a special kind of you know, material or what have you. But anyway, I guess to answer your question, part of it is collaborative with the studio people, and it depends. Like with Picard, because of COVID, the production company kind of shut down before we could really get started working with them more closely. So it was just kind of a situation where, all right, we know what to do. We'll do it. And look, at the end of the day, only I would know what might really, like, what else might we have been able to do if we could have accessed certain assets. I mean, there's some things that might be obvious. I'll give you one example with Picard. So just getting back to the whole idea of, you know, the production company had to close up because of COVID. Normally, someone would get costume materials for us, and then we'd make relic cards out of those. Well, they had to close up. And so for this first series of cards, we don't have the relics. But what we did do is we went in a different direction. We got sketch cards, which we probably wouldn't have done as aggressively. We didn't do sketch cards at all for Discovery Series 1 because we had a lot of costume materials and we made cards out of those. So I suspect that, you know, when we go to work on the second series of Picard, we'll probably have a little bit more interaction and a little more exchange with the production company. Now with Discovery, because we got started on that particular line before COVID, we had already established some relationships with people at the production company. I visited the studio a couple of times up in Toronto where they film, and met with some of the people behind the scenes. So like in the set that we just put out a couple months ago, we had storyboards that, I wouldn't have thought to include storyboard cards in a product, because I never know whether I'm going to have access to that sort of thing. I can ask for it, but it's sort of a different deal when you go there and you start talking to the people who are involved in creating the storyboards, or you go and talk to the costume designer and the people who are in the back who are sewing things and, making molds of, comm badges, and, walking around the set and seeing what's there and talking to the people who are involved. And, when I have those opportunities, it's great because, let's face it, who doesn't want to be part of a trading card set in some way? So when I show samples to these guys, men and women, when I say guys, they all get very excited because everybody wants the cards regardless of anything else. It's just cool to have cards for the show because they're working on the show. But then I say, well, look, can you get me this? Can you make this available? Would you be able to write me some commentary that we can print on the card? And it's like, oh, wait a minute. Here we go. So that's been great with Discovery. We've developed a really, really good relationship with those folks. And I think they've really appreciated what we've been able to do in our discussions and how that's translated to the end product. So it just depends, I guess.
That's awesome. Now, obviously, Steve, I'm a huge autograph guy. Can you kind of walk me through the whole process of figuring out who you're going to select for autographs, getting into the celebrity? Like, can you kind of walk me through that whole process?
Sure. Well, as you can imagine, some of it is not too complicated. Obviously, for a show like Picard, you start with the starring cast, and Patrick Stewart is Picard. So, we would start with him and work our way down. That's typically how I would approach it. And it does help to get especially if there's one lead character like him, if the other actors who are involved know that he's involved, then the process becomes pretty simple. Now, the good news for me is that I've been dealing with Patrick Stewart for 20, I don't know how many years, 25 years. So, I don't have to reinvent the wheel in terms of, approaching him and explaining what we do and why we do it and why he should do it. He just knows, which is great. And we get cooperation from all those folks. And we just work our way down the cast list. There's obviously the starring cast of these shows are usually very cooperative. They want to participate and they want to support the product line and the franchise as best they can. It actually reminds me of an important point about making trading cards for TV shows versus one-off movies. With franchise movies, it's a little different because where there's continuity of the cast and continuity over time, those actors tend to be a little bit more invested. With one-offs, by the time we get to the movie project, the actors have already moved on to their next gigs, and sometimes they just don't care anymore. Whereas with something like Star Trek, or really any TV series where, they're going from, they're making, potentially dozens of episodes in a season over multiple seasons. They have a long-term commitment to making the whole thing work. And that plays to our advantage so that we can nurture a relationship with those people. And because we've done it for so long with all of the different Star Trek shows, we've got a track record of success there. And it doesn't take a lot of heavy lifting in terms of explaining what we're all about. So anyway, the process is fairly straightforward. We get a lot of cooperation. we've been doing it for so long, and we've developed relationships not only with the actors but their agents and the studios, and it comes a little easier, I think, probably for us than it might be for other companies. That like when Cryptozoic starts doing trading cards for a new TV show or a movie, or Topps is doing something for a new TV show or a movie, what have you. I mean, typically they're starting from scratch. They may not have a history with the agent for, whoever the actor is that they're trying to get to sign cards. So like for us, it becomes a little easier. It's like we made trading cards going back to, I forget what year it was, maybe about 10 years ago. No, it's got to be more than that. Almost 15 years ago now, when we did the Iron Man movie cards. And I'm getting a little off topic here, but like we got Robert Downey Jr. to sign cards for us, and those were not sticker autographs or any phony baloney kind of stuff that these other companies sometimes play around with. You just stick a page of stickers in front of the guy, and then you'll figure out what to do with them later. I mean, we don't do that. I can't think of a single instance where we've ever done sticker autographs for anything. We always do on-card autographs, unless it's a very, very unusual circumstance, but nothing even comes to mind where we've done something like that exactly. Because we're always planning ahead, but we have these relationships in place. So, when I wanted to do the deal with Robert Downey Jr., it wasn't that I knew Robert Downey Jr. He didn't know me, but I knew his agent. And, by that time, so that would have been 2005, the first Iron Man movie.
I think
something around that time. So, I'd been doing this for 10 years already at that point. And in terms of doing autograph deals with celebrities. So, look, we've had Chris Hemsworth, we've had Robert Downey Jr., we've done Daniel Craig several times, we've done Patrick Stewart and William Shatner a bazillion times. We got Ellen Page, who's now Elliot Page, for Umbrella Academy. We've had Hugh Jackman sign for us a few times. We had Ryan Reynolds sign for, and all these are on-card autographs. It's not like, somebody just happens to be in a hotel lobby or something and sticks a page of stickers in front of the guy and says, here, sign this or whatever. It's leftovers from a convention or, they do it for us because they know that we're legit. They know that the projects are legit. They know that we pay our bills. They know that we're reliable, and they know that the projects that we work on will get to their hardcore fans. And it's really an important point that I often make when I'm introducing our business to people who aren't familiar with us, that, this autograph phenomenon with celebrities has just, it's exploded over the years, but there's a lot of fraud. There's a lot of things that go on that are kind of unseemly. And look, a guy like Hugh Jackman's not going to go to a convention and sit and sign autographs for any amount of money. Daniel Craig's not going to do that. Right. Robert Downey Jr. is not going to do that. So why does he do it for us? It's not the money. They don't need the money. I can't offer those guys enough. They do it because they know that we're going to reach those fans and that the cards that we make are legit. And okay, so any of their fans all over the world will have a legitimate opportunity to own something that has been, blessed by the studio. It's authentic. They don't have to wonder whether, is this, is this something that's real? Is it forged? What have you? Because so much of the stuff that you buy, it might come with a certificate of authenticity. It might not. Might look real, it might not. But there's all sorts of stuff that's being peddled on eBay and elsewhere, and you just don't know. So anyhow, I don't mean to get too off topic and going off on sort of my high horse about why we make such great autograph cards, but there's something to it. And I like to think that we get cooperation from those kinds of people because of, who we are, what we do, how we do it, and the legitimacy of it all.
No, I was going to say that I mean, that's why I love your product. Your product is great. It's awesome. I mean, how you display it, how, every facet of it. There's no wonder why these celebrities back you guys up, because you make a great product. I can't say it any other way.
Well, I appreciate that.
And if I'm searching for something that I want, I am more likely to pay more for a product that I know has the Rittenhouse backing on it than, an on-card autograph gotten at this convention. Yeah, maybe you did. Great. I'm happy for you. And that's great for your collection, but I wasn't there. I don't know that you got it from that person at that convention. I'd rather pay the extra and get something, like you said, that I know is authentic, because, when it all comes down to it, if I'm spending money on it, I want it to be real.
No doubt about it. Authenticity is so important in today's market, whether it's the cards that we make or whether it's the cards that other companies make, whether it's vintage material. Like I'm a collector of old cards, and a lot of that stuff is really appreciated in value. And if I'm going to buy, for example, like I love 1940 Superman gum, I'm not going to pay a crazy amount of money for like card number 1 in that set, just as an example, is a pretty valuable card. But if I'm going to buy that card, I want it to be graded. I want to have some sort of authentication associated with it, so that I know that if I'm putting out hundreds or thousands of dollars for something like that, you want it to be real and know that it's real, and at least have that authentication. So, and it applies for what we do with current cards. And now the current card market is blowing up in an unbelievable way in terms of the prices that people are paying and the amount of demand that there is. There's, it's an interesting question that keeps coming up, because as I'm sure you guys have been seeing the market, really expanding like almost daily. It seems like there's a new record price being sold or being had for new cards being sold. Mike Trout rookie cards and Tom Brady rookies, and basketball players, and I mean everything. It's the whole trading card market is just kind of exploding in a really unbelievable, unexpected way. Is that a consequence of the pandemic? Maybe. It's kind of hard not to think that it isn't related in some way. But every time there's a media story, I mean, in fairness, actually, if you think about it, it goes back probably to when, people were writing about, media was talking about, Derek Jeter's rookie card going for $100,000 or Tom Brady's rookie going for $100,000. That was probably before the pandemic. But then in the last year, you're seeing some of these new cards going for millions of dollars. And as those media reports, proliferate, it gains traction, and more people keep coming into the hobby. This is the great thing about what's going on in the hobby right now, and it's affecting all of us, even on the entertainment side. So even when you see a Mike Trout rookie card going for $5 million, there is a trickle down effect there, and now all of a sudden we've got more people paying attention to Star Trek, and we got more people paying attention to Game of Thrones and Umbrella Academy, whatever else it is that's being made currently. So, we've seen this in a very, very real way, that the market is expanding. People have rediscovered trading cards if they, collected previously and then maybe stopped. And now they've been home for the last year and they have some money to spend because they can't take a vacation. And so, people, what do people do? They want to spend time and money on their hobbies, and trading cards makes people happy. I mean, there's just no two ways about it. I mean, pandemic or not, I mean, at the end of the day, I've said this since the day I started my company. We're in this business to make people happy. Nobody needs trading cards to eat or to put a roof over their head or to, the whole thing is about making you happy. And I think it's one reason why I don't mean to get up on a soapbox here, but it is something that I feel passionately about. I started this business because I saw all the wrong things that a company like Fleer Skybox and even Scoreboard did. when money becomes the primary motivator, this is going to sound disingenuous. It's like when athletes say, oh, it's not about the money. It's really about the money. Well, for me, it's about making really cool products. And I've always taken this approach. You make the best possible product that you can with what you have to work with. So the money part of it will flow from making good product. Now, the things that used to go on at Fleer, and I know this is true at other companies because I know enough about what goes on. A lot of times it's driven by, okay, we need to make quarterly numbers. We need to generate, $1 million in sales of this next product, whatever the criteria is. And then you retrofit the product to fit the numbers. Well, to me, that's stupid. You make the best product that you can, and that will lead to good numbers. And could I have made more money over the years doing what I do? I probably could have, because people will still buy the products. I see what happens like with Star Wars cards. I can't tell you how many complaints people, lay on me about what Topps does with Star Wars. No offense to Topps, but they don't always put, the very best features in every single product, because the reality is they know that people will still buy the product. But I choose not to play that game. I don't mean to sound disingenuous by saying this, but it is true that we want to put the very best features into every product that we can, and make the product line as robust as we can over as long a period of time as we can. I don't want anybody to buy Star Trek cards, for example, and say, oh, geez, I know I had to buy it because I love Star Trek, but I really wish they had done a whole lot more. And boy, there was no value in this. Or why didn't they have Patrick Stewart sign cards? Or why didn't William Shatner do this? Or, we're not gonna play those games. We're just gonna make the best possible product, and we'll be successful, and we have been successful taking that approach.
And something that as I listen to you say, and I know you keep saying, I don't want to get on my soapbox, I don't want to be disingenuous. And I don't think either of the two of us feel that way when we listen to you talk about this, because one of the things, so prior to you on the Collector's Corner here, we've interviewed two other licensees.
Okay.
And in both cases, they say almost exactly the same stuff. It's about the product. It's about what the fans want. And you know what? Yeah, it's nice to make money because that's why we're all in business. But if we're doing what we think people want, that is the byproduct of us doing that. That money's going to come if we're doing the right things. And both other licensees that we talked to, and now you as well, all have the background of being collectors themselves and wanting to put that extra attention to detail into the product because you know what you want if you're going out looking for something.
Yeah. And another thing too, it generates excitement too, because now as a fan, I know for myself personally, I know you've talked about the Picard set. I've literally gone on almost every single day waiting to see you release. Okay, what subsets are coming? Because you're excited about the product, because you love the product, and you're like, okay, what's the next thing Rittenhouse is going to do? And that's what you do, and that's the kind of excitement you generate when you put out a good product.
Yeah.
As opposed to what you were talking about, where the customer's like, well, we got another Picard set coming out, so I got to get it because it's Star Trek. No, I'm excited because I want to see what he's going to do next, and that's genuinely how I feel when I look at your cards.
No, I appreciate that.
So I guess another question that I have along that line, then, you mentioned that you're a smaller business. So does Rittenhouse fall into the definition of small business category?
Definitely.
Okay. And see, that's another thing too, that we, it's funny because all of the licensees that we have been either in talks with or we've already done interviews with, small business, collector, have a love for the series, and the product that is being put out is something that the fans are looking for because of the ingenuity of the product, first of all, but then the heartfelt approach to how it's put out there. And then being a small business, everybody is in on it. And, you mentioned Topps. Topps has been around since the 50s. It's a multi-billion-dollar conglomerate. Like you said, they don't necessarily care what the Star Wars product is going to be. Here's the images. Let's put them on there. They're not going to sit there and watch frame by frame of the cage to be able to set up what they want.
Well, different business models, I guess. I mean, they obviously are the granddaddy of the trading card industry. I take nothing away of the importance of Topps to what this business and this industry
absolutely
is all about. Without Topps, I don't know that I'm sitting here today doing what I do. So I collect a lot of Topps cards too, so don't get me wrong. Mostly vintage stuff. I've collected, the 76 Topps Star Trek set. I've got an unopened box of that in my personal collection, which there you go. I actually contributed to that book.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that was fun. Topps certainly has a very important place in the history of trading cards for sure. But, they're fundamentally a baseball card company, which is great. They do a phenomenal job making baseball cards. I think sometimes it's hard. I mean, knowing my experiences at Fleer, which was a very similarly structured company and similarly run company, it can be hard to balance, especially when you get into some of the properties or the franchises like Star Wars, where, especially if you've made many, many sets over the years and what's the next set going to consist of? It's easy with baseball because every year you've got new rookies and you've got players being traded to new teams. And so, different uniforms, there's new stats, there's all sorts of, newness to the seasonality of baseball and other sports. There's not always that kind of newness and way of just sort of generically, gaining, new material, unless there's a new movie or a new TV series. And then okay, you've got more to work with. But if you're just talking about, making product based on something that's classic, that's why I come back to the idea of, we've been making trading card sets for like TOS, probably do an average of maybe one set every 2 years or so. Some years, maybe it's more often than that. But, how do you really do justice to something like that? It's a 50-plus-year-old property that, and all the time I've been making Star Trek cards, there's never been, a new episode of TOS. It was always, classic. It was, old shows. So, you got to get creative with it and give the hardcore fans what they want. Make sure that the cards reflect that with the photos, with the themes, with what you write on the card backs. So, that's a challenge and you got to be committed to it. And at the same time, look, it's easy sometimes, I think, to fall into the trap of, people will be the hardcore collectors of these franchises, whether it's Star Trek or Star Wars or, something else, James Bond, they're going to come back. They really want more. And the difference between it being really, really exciting and being just kind of is how much effort you put into it and how deeply you dig into the details. And to me, it doesn't really take that much more effort to get into those details. It's easy to just slap photos on a card and, away we go, print them up. But, to me, that's not a very satisfying existence. I want to get into all the details, just really get into those weeds and pull out details, like we were talking earlier about, making a subset, a 72 or 70 card subset for the cage, going frame by frame and line by line and listening to what the characters say. And, what's amazing to me about doing that is not only is it fun to do it, but when I make those products, I dig out details that I don't think I ever even knew. Like I've seen the cage in my life. I'm going to guess I've seen it maybe like 20 times or more, probably more. I've lost track. But when I go through and I look at an episode like that to make a set of trading cards for it, and I'm pulling out all the details and I'm paying really close attention to the way the actors are speaking to each other and what's going on in the background. And, was that alien in the cage, down the hall from Captain Pike. And you start seeing things that you didn't see before, and you really start to appreciate the nuances of it. And when you pull out a detail that you think, like, how could you have missed that? How could I have not seen that the first 20 times I saw this episode? It's like, oh my God, this is the greatest thing. I know I'm geeking out a little bit here, but it's what I do.
We were afraid that we were going to be geeking out too much talking to you because we love the product. So, hey, it's good that we have this mutual nerdum here.
Yeah, no,
I'll
great.
say one of the thing that may be of interest. It's off a little off in a different direction here. One of the things that's been really fun about working on Star Trek, just besides making the products and adding to my own personal collection, just because I'm a collector at heart. I make products for me, essentially. I just assume that everybody else will like what I like. But anyway, leaving that aside, getting to know some of the cast members over the years and having some personal interactions with them. First off, like they're such cool people. Leonard Nimoy, just as an example, I'm going to tell you a Nimoy story. I haven't told this story very often. And I wouldn't have told this story while he was still alive, but I'll tell it now. So I got to know him a little bit, always just a real, salt of the earth kind of guy, just, unbelievable human being. Just like he was the kind of guy like you'd want to hang out with him, and you wished he was your uncle, or somehow you'd be related to him, that you shared his DNA or whatever. Just unbelievable guy. Okay, so I'm talking to him one day, and I said that I knew somebody who was a friend of my family, who was a big Star Trek fan. This guy was an older gentleman. He loved the character of Spock. He was undergoing cancer treatments at the time, and the guy was probably not long for the world at that point. In fact, I think he did pass away not that much longer afterwards. So I tell Leonard about this guy. He's a Star Trek fan. He loves Spock. I said, look, do with this as you see fit. But if it's in your heart to call the guy and just say hello, that would be really cool. No pressure, nothing. I just gave him the information. That was it. He called the guy. And I mean, who does that? He wasn't looking for any glory, wasn't looking for any pay, wasn't looking to, it was just one human being to another, total stranger. And what's incredible about that story is not just that he called this guy, But Leonard himself was very sick at the time. None of us knew that. And I think he passed away himself, if I'm not mistaken, right around the same time that this other guy passed away. So it was just like, it was unbelievable to me that he would do that, and show such generosity and kindness to a stranger. But that's more common than not with a lot of these people. I mean, I'm not asking other actors on a regular basis to call people who were sick or anything like that. That was an unusual circumstance. But, my experience with when I've come into direct contact with a lot of these cast members has just been that they're really great people. They get what Star Trek is about. It's not just another acting gig. Maybe it starts acting gig at the beginning, but then they start to understand what it all means and what their place is in it and what their character means to people and how important it is to be part of telling these stories and the social issues, and that it really is part of something much bigger that will endure. It's not just sort of flavor of the month TV show that will come and go and, it won't be remembered, because it will be. And it withstands the test of time. So, I mean, those personal interactions, I think, are often, among my favorite moments in this business, that have nothing to do with what appears on the cards, but it's just, it's a memory of something human.
And who he was as a person, as opposed to just being the guy that had the pointed ears on screen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
He was just a great dude. I mean, I there's no other way to say it. I mean, I love the guy.
I know. I mean, I've met pretty much most of the principal cast members from all the shows, but he's one that I never got a chance to meet, and always very, very sad that I never got a chance to actually meet him. I do have I have autographs from him, obviously, but yeah, that is definitely one that, you'll never be able to get back, that memory. Well, I was going to say, Steve, I know you talked about, I was going to ask you if you had any good experiences meeting people or things like that. But I think I'm going to ask you, of all your products that you've made and done, what's the one that you're most passionate about, that you said, my favorite, this is the best thing I've done up to this point? If you had to put your stamp on that, which would it be?
Well, the cars that are behind me here, the ones that I started making when I was at Fleer Skybox, for original series, because that's carried over now for close to 25 years. And I think that we have so many people who feel so passionately about collecting those cards, and the continuity of the card design that we were fortunately able to carry over from my days at Fleer Skybox to Rittenhouse, and to keep it going for as long as we have. And, it's always exciting to me when we find anybody who is part of the original series to sign cards now for the first time. And it seems like there's always somebody, in any given period of time. I don't think 6 months, let's say, ever goes by without us finding somebody. It may not be somebody who had a huge role in the show, but still it's relevant. And the people who collect those cards, are thrilled for us to add to it. And I'm thrilled to add to it. It's really just been such a great experience, working on those cards, working on those autographs over the years, because it's allowed me to get to know so many people. And a lot of those actors at the time that we did signings with them, they were retired. So in many instances, I didn't have to go through agents or managers. I just, I dealt directly with that actor. And what's amazing are the stories that a lot of these actors will tell me. They all want to share their experience about Star Trek. And what's even funny about that, in a way, not unexpected, but it's interesting how they will inevitably tell me, how, Star Trek might have been, one of the least significant things that they ever did in terms of pure acting. Maybe they were on one episode from 50 years ago or whatever it was. And at the time they didn't think much of it. It was just another job, but it's become important to them and memories of being a part of it, whether it was from the days that they were on set acting back in the 60s on one of those episodes, or just what it's meant to them over the years to be interacting with the fans who remember them for that one character that they played. They might have been on screen for 5 minutes or 5 seconds and they get remembered for that more than they get remembered for anything else that they've ever done. And it's really touching to hear a lot of these stories and how enthusiastic these actors are about telling me, their experiences dealing with Gene Roddenberry and dealing with, Nimoy, or Shatner, or, whoever. They all have stories, and there's so much fun. It's probably one of the big regrets that I have over the years is not recording more of these stories, writing them down in the moment, or even, actually putting them on tape or recording them in some way. Because there's just a lot of stuff. There's a lot of history here that, who would know? Some of their stories, have been told, but a lot of them not. And I just feel like I'm the luckiest guy as a Star Trek fan to have some of those moments, personal moments with these people, and have the ability to hear their stories.
You certainly are living the dream, Steve. When you and I were communicating about getting on for this, I said, "Yep, Jamie and I would love to get paid for our hobby, but unfortunately, we got to schlep it with our everyday jobs." But you definitely are a lucky man with what you've. Well, I guess lucky isn't the right word, because you've worked hard to get in the position that you're in. And so you have done a good job to position yourself to the point where you are living the dream. You're getting to do the stuff that you dreamed about coming up, and interact with these guys and put out a product that you care about.
I appreciate that. It's been so much fun, and it continues to be fun. And I guess someday I'll grow up and get a real job. But until then, I'll just keep doing what I'm doing.
Well, it seems to be working out for you, and I think all of us are happy that you're at the helm, because the product that we're getting is great. We really appreciate you taking the time with us tonight to discuss this product that Jamie and I both love, but I think our listeners are really into it too. We've had some good response online from people saying, "Oh, I never thought I would get a piece of Star Trek," and they show us a relic card that they have. And that's the kind of thing that they really enjoy.
What I actually just got this week, actually, I found, I think it was, you guys did it on the first TNG set. I think it was series 1, the complete Next Generation, the Gene Roddenberry business card. I actually picked one of those up. I didn't realize it was going to be so big. I was actually thinking it was like regular card size. But just once again, one of the interesting ideas that you're probably like, hey, let's put this in a card, make it a case topper, So
yeah, it was fun. All those things are fun. It's just, you get creative with things like that. Look, this is just a great hobby. It's a great business. It's great making people happy. The best days are when we get emails or letters or calls from, people who collect our cards, or our dealers who sell our cards, and they're happy with what we're putting out. And, that's what we're here for.
Oh, we definitely appreciate you again coming on. So we had seen that March 17th was the date for Picard coming out. I think a dealer told Jamie that it was getting pushed off a week due to COVID. It was that just a shipping thing.
It's sort of final stages of production. Not to get into too many details about it, but some of the people that work on the packaging and printing, have been affected by COVID, and we wish them a full recovery. It's just a consequence of the world we're living in right now.
Exactly.
And if people get sick, what are you going to do? We all have to roll with those situations. But I think, having said that, the good news is I think that we'll be, no more than a week delayed. So probably March 24th. Possible it could slip just a teeny bit longer than that, but I don't think so. But one thing that's actually, there's the good things sometimes come of unfortunate circumstances like that. It actually gave me a little bit more time to accumulate some extra autograph cards that I had been trying to get. There was an actress who was in one of the really cool episodes. If you remember, there's a scene where they go down to the planet where there's this bar and Picard's all dressed up and he's got the patch on, and it's like sort of a wacky setup. And there was an actress who played a really cool role in that episode. And I've been trying to find a time to get her to sign cards for us, and it just wasn't coming together. And this delay that we had with production, just that little bit of time, we found an opportunity, and I just got her cards. Well, I was going to see if I could put my hands on them right away, but they're in the other room. So that's sometimes cool. Set than I originally had planned, and that's another situation where it's like, I didn't need to do it. I could have put the product out. No one else would have known, and it wouldn't have made much difference. I don't know that, it wouldn't have made a difference in our sales. We're already sold out. But it's one of those things where it's like, oh, come on, we got to get the cards in there. So we just did.
That's great. I love stories like that. Well, whether it is the 24th or a little bit later, look for Star Trek Picard Series 1 from Rittenhouse, wherever you get your non-sport trading cards. Those will be on the shelves. Jamie and we already have our order in, and we're just waiting for them to come in. We'll be probably doing video of us opening cases to see what we pull, just in case people care out there. But again, we do appreciate you coming on. As we have talked about before, the Collector's Corner is a supplemental episode of the Divine Treasury where we do stuff like this. We try to have conversations with licensees about the products that they're putting out that's Star Trek related. As well, we're going to try and get into some things that we talked about tonight. Being able to authenticate stuff that maybe you got at a convention, so that if you bought it from someone else, that it's the real deal. Perhaps we're going to talk to people who do card grading. You never know what we might get into, but that is part of what we want to do here at the Collector's Corner. So we appreciate you listening to this episode. And again, we thank Steve from Rittenhouse for having this discussion with us. And we look forward to you joining us again at the Divine Treasury and the Collector's Corner.
For the Divine Treasury is provided by 5 Year Mission. They're writing an original song for each episode of Star Trek. Hear more of their music at 5yearmission.net. The Divine Treasury is a production of Coconut Media Works. Executive producers Bill Smith and Dan Davidson. For more great Star Trek discussion, discover the other shows of the Trek Geeks Podcast Network at trekgeeks.com or find us in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app.